So guys, this is probably going to be a standalone episode, I think, because I think this is quite a long reading session. And if you are into, the lore, if you like me reading out this entire book of the Green Hills of Strangethorn, then do stick around. If you think you are not going to enjoy this, then, just leave. It will be a short video probably, but I'm going to make sure it's a standalone video, so you can just skip it if you don't care for this whatsoever. So, sit back, get yourself a snack and drink, and here we go. Let's read The Green Hills of Strangethorn. Our first day went as well as one can expect first days to go. Most of our time was preoccupied with making the necessary arrangements to establish a base camp. I located an ideal setting by a freshwater river inlet. Judging by the old, abandoned docks nearby, the site was inhabited some time ago. As for the original inhabitants, only time can tell that tale. For this expedition, I have assembled Ajak, Ruak, and Sir S.J. Earlgaden, the guys, standing next to us in camp, along with my trusted servant, Barnel Stompot, the guy who asked us to collect the pages. I fought alongside Ajak's father's side in many battles in defense of the Alliance. Seeing her grown is quite special. Her father schooled her well in the ways of weaponry. Her skills with a bow make me wonder if there is elven blood running through those veins. Sir S.J. Elgaden came... I feel like I keep changing the pronunciation for that name, but it's whatever. Comes from the human aristocracy. I always struggle with that word. His father, Count Elgaden, was renowned for his generosity. It was the Count who lobbied for improved working conditions for the Stonemasons Guild during the restoration of Stormwind after the Second Great War. And, keep in mind that the Stonemasons Guild was closely tied in with the whole stuff with the dead mines. In the years that followed, after Stormwind betrayed the Stonemasons Guild, Sir Elgaden grew bitter about the role of nobles within the kingdom. He no longer wished to uphold the position that his father's bloodline had earned for him in the House of Nobles. But I digress. The purpose of this story is not to act as a political treatise or a biography. This is the account of my experiences hunting big game in the Green Hills of Strangethorn. We rose with the sun. Barnel began to prepare the morning meal. I noticed Ajak's attention was somewhat distracted. The day's trek would be long, and our hunt would bring us close to danger. A lack of focus could easily lead to an errant mishap. Yet, Ajak seemed unable to divert her gaze from Barnil, who stood by the edge of the river, rinsing out his mess kit. Just as I was about to question Ajak's lack of interest in the day's hunting strategy, she reached for her quiver, drew an arrow, and unleashed a shot right towards poor Barnil. But it was not Barnel that Ajak was shooting at, for when Barnel stepped aside, mouth agape, a large river crocolisk floated to the surface with Ajak's arrow perfectly placed between his two large eyes. We set toward the west, through the thick overgrowth of the tangled jungle. Moving with slow, deliberate steps, we paced through thick foliage in search of prey. The morning passed in frustrating silence. Nothing was stirring in the vale, not even a breeze. By the afternoon, the expedition had grown restless. Barnel no longer strode with the cautious step of a predator tracking prey. Rather, he clumsily clumped along the path, often stepping noisily on dried leaves or fallen branches. During one such misstep, Elgaden laid a heavy hand on Barnel's shoulder. Ajak and I gave a casual glance, assuming the man was simply giving Barnel a much-needed scolding for his carelessness. Elgaden, however, gestured slowly with his head towards a nearby fallen tree. Gazing back at us were two piercing black eyes, just above a mouthful of razor-sharp fangs. That was chapter 1. Moving on to chapter number 2. The beast was a male Stranglethorn tiger. Before I could cock my rifle, Elgaden raised his crossbow and fired upon the beast. The bolt missed its mark and caught the beast heavily in the left flank. The tiger made a futile attempt to flee, but its wound was too grave. The beast stumbled for a few tragic seconds until Barnel finished the kill with a thrown axe. The kill brought about a festive mood amongst the expedition. Barnel poured meat for all to enjoy, but our festivities were short-lived. As we were preparing the corpse for transport back to base camp, we were all caught off guard by a horrendous growl. In all my years, I have never heard anything so blood-curdling. On a rocky precipice above, silhouetted by the setting sun, I could make out the largest cat of prey I have ever laid eyes upon. I was able to choose one clumsy volley with my rifle, but the cat held his ground. he growled once again, this time louder than the first, and vanished. We gathered our belongings and headed solemnly back to camp. I had promised the expedition that we would spend the next day hunting panthers, as their furs are in high demand throughout Azeroth. It only makes sense that such demands should exist with all of the able-bodied hunters, trappers and fur traders, of giving their lives so valiantly in the name of the Alliance. Ajak and Cyril Agaden were anxious to learn how to hunt effectively with a dwarven rifle. I had the two hunters leave their primitive range weapons at base camp. Barnel and I outfitted them with some Ironforge's finest firearms. On this day, we ventured to the south, following some fresh panther tracks. Soon we reached a ravine spanned by a tremendous rope bridge. I could not help but to think Brand's descriptive writings of his region when I saw the engineering marvel. So often it was assumed that the native trolls were a primitive and uneducated race. Yet, as I gazed upon the master craftsmanship on the ridge, I was able to recognize the skill with which the troll builders overcame the seemingly impossible feat. Before long, Ajak tracked the panther to the southwest. We walked quietly, guns at the ready, in anticipation of our prey. A snapping of twigs from a nearby copse of trees drew our attention immediately. Something was in there. One stern glance at Barnel was enough to convey my thoughts. Barnel slowly lowered his rifle. This kill was not for us. It was for our human companions. Countless panthers had lost their lives in front of our smoking barrels. This kill would be for the humans. Both Ajak and Cyril Agaden stood poised, guns leveled at the bristling overgrowth at the base of the swaying trees. The midday sun beat heavily upon us. A slow trickle of perspiration trailed down from Elgaden's temple as he pulled the pin back. Upon the sound of the click, the thick flora parted and a large black panther, a beautiful specimen, darted out onto the plain. Alright, chapter 2 done. Green Hills of Strangethorn, chapter 3. The humans trained their sights on the panther. Trained their sights on the panther as it ran along the edge of the tree line. The barrels of their guns moved in perfect parallel tandem. Barnel gave me an urging glance, but I shook my head no. This hunt was for the humans, not Barnel or me. Elgaden fired a booming shot, missing the panther altogether. Apparently he was underprepared for the violent kickback of the rifle blast. His gun tossed back violently in his arms. The barrel swooped sideways and came up beneath Ajax's rifle. Ajak had chosen that exact moment to pull her trigger. The rifle, the aim now locked clumsily towards the tree line, went off with a distinct boom. A flock of birds screamed out of the canopy, scattering in every direction. A plume of smoke rose from the tree. We watched in awe as a tremendous branch fell squarely on the fleeing panther, breaking its back. As the weeks passed, our stockpile of panther and tiger skins grew immense. I decided it was time for the expedition to shift our focus to a new challenge: raptors. The humans, while appreciative of the training Barnel and I offered, decided to refrain from hunting with firearms. Ajak was much more comfortable with a finely strung bow, and Cyril Elgaden never left camp without his sturdy crossbow. We set out at first light, heading south past the Tsaski ruins. Barnel voiced concern that we might encounter members of the Bloodskull tribe, which we have killed of course because we've got their ears. I reminded Barnel that the Bloodskulls were more concerned with destroying the tribal enemy, the Skull Splitters. Needless to say, Barnel was not comforted in the least. I, however, had a loaded rifle, a satchel full of gunpowder, and 3 deadly hunters with me to ease any concerns of an unfriendly ambush. I've stood before a towering inferno on the battlefield, the army of the Burning Legion advancing from all directions. An unruly band of trolls seems as harmless as a jackrabbit on the hills of Don Morog, a place we too have been to. We passed is it Takashi? I guess it's Takashi ruins without event. Much to Barnel's relief, the party proceeded to head westward, towards the Great Sea, skirting the ruins of Zulkunda just to the south. As we ascended the high sea bluffs, we spotted our first raptor. The beast never so much as detected our presence. In fact, the only greeting he received from the expedition was a bullet between the eyes. Cyril Elgaden let out a hearty hooray as Ajak nodded towards me with keen approval. I sifted through my pack in search of my pipe, hoping to enjoy a celebratory smoke. Barnel began to scurry up the hillside to retrieve the raptor's corpse. I stared at the fallen beast with the satisfaction that accompanies every big kill. But I could not bask in the glory of the kill for long, for when I turned my eyes towards the horizon, several silhouettes appeared cresting the hill, just above poor Barnel. "Flee, Barnel!" I shouted. Ajax, Sir Elgaden and myself loosed a volley of bullets, arrows and bolts over Barnel and towards the pursuing raptors. One of us landed a kill amidst the confusion. Our hastily aimed shots were enough to buy Barnel's escape. Barnel clambered back down the hill and rejoined the party. We scurried off into the jungle, a pack of ferocious lash-tail raptors stalking our every move. The hunters were now the hunted. And now for the conclusion, guys. Let's move in to chapter number 4. I led the party towards the sea, hoping the shoreline would provide refuge from the raptors. In our haste, we had drifted too far north, to a precarious high elevation. The mistake was made, the fault was mine. We stopped just short of a sheer cliff, the raptors just a few paces behind. I stepped slowly forward, gun raised. I had led these brave hunters to their death. I would die defending them. Lash-tail raptors are particularly fierce and known for their unrelenting bloodthirst. They far outnumbered us, but I would be damned if I let them kill me and my comrades without shedding some of their blood first. Ajax and Sir Elgaden readied their weapons, flanking me on either side. Our backs to the sea, Barnel let out a defeated sigh and drew his axe. The lash-tails were almost upon us. Their steady stride had slowed. They were stalking their prey now, for they knew they had us trapped. And then, something miraculous happened. From off to our side, we heard the distinct and terrifying roar of the great white tiger. Despite the numbers, the raptors turned and scattered in all directions. We saw but a brief white flash as the tiger darted past us and pounced on one of the raptors. No command needed to be given. All 4 members of our party knew it was time to run. We sprinted all the way back to base camp, never slowing. Later that night, we sat quietly around the campfire, knowing our lives had been saved by a bizarre twist of fate. Such are the risks of the big game hunter. We toy with fate by delivering it. Yet, each of us at some point will face fate's razor-sharp teeth. This dwarf is just glad that moment did not come upon the Green Hills of Strangethorn. Thank you very much for joining me, guys, in this reading of the Green Hills of Strangethorn, and I'll see you in the next video.